All right, guys, let me tell you something about politics, right? And politicians. Politicians do not have principles, okay? There is no such thing as a principled politician, okay? Because politicians do what's best in the moment for them. They don't care about precedent. They don't care about principles. They don't care about what they said in the past about the same subject. If what they said in the past does not suit them at the current moment, they will disregard it. Okay? And guys, this is the reason why we need two things in politics, guys. We need to get money out of politics and we need term limits. Right? Because those two things, in my opinion, almost make politics hopeless because it incentivizes hypocrisy solely to stay in power. There's no such thing as standing on principles, okay? And I'm saying this as Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, okay, is trying to overturn a democratically elected GOP House representative from Iowa after she won her state certified election by 6 votes in 2020. Okay, now this GOP representative, Mariannette Miller-Meeks, won by 6 votes over Miss Rita Hart, who is a Democrat that lost. And Miss Rita Hart is essentially trying to challenge these election results. Okay, and keep in mind, there was a recount, right? It was certified, right? And Miss Rita Hart, instead of going through the courts, which is what Trump tried to do, instead of going through the courts, she went straight to Congress, okay? And Nancy Pelosi is entertaining the idea of trying to overturn the election, okay? And currently, the centrist Democrats are having to try to talk themselves out of going down this route, considering all the rhetoric about how trying to challenge the election was the worst thing in the world that the Democrats just pushed for 2 or 3 months straight. Now, lo and behold, when the Democrats don't like the results of the election, they're trying to do the same thing. And guess what? They're citing that, well, she lost by 6 votes, but, you know, she lost because there's 22 ballots that were thrown out that would have given her the victory. Who does that sound like? Okay? And then, guys, the media has not covered this at all, right? That's the worst part. Because it's one thing if these Democrats, like the centrist Democrats, were consistent on this. It's one thing if they were consistent on this, right? And they say, you know what? We just spent the last 3 months telling the American people how wrong it is to try to do this. We should not go down this path. Credit to them. They're being principled on this issue. But instead, Miss Nancy Pelosi thinks that she's a dictator. She thinks that she has all power to remove a duly elected member of Congress just because she says so. Take a listen.
And I'm very proud of the work of Zoe Lofgren. She knows election law so very, very well, and we want to be fair. Now, if I wanted to be unfair, I wouldn't have seated the Republican from Iowa, because that was my right on the opening day. I would have just said, they're not seated. And that would have been my right as Speaker to do. But we didn't want to do that. We just said, let's just go through this process. Many members were saying, don't seat the person. You know, you're naming a few who are saying, let's move on. But I'm saying then people said, why should we seat somebody to have votes for all this time when their election is being contested? And we said, no, we will seat the member and then we'll go through the normal process. But it would have been under the rules allowable for me to say, we're not seating the member from Iowa. We did not do that. So I want credit for that.
Now, guys, apparently Miss House Speaker Nancy Pelosi doesn't know the Constitution, right? And we're known that the Democrats don't really care about the Constitution. We've known that. But this right here is just blatant disregard for not only just the Constitution, but historical precedents that has come in the court system, because this has already been settled. Because as you can see right here, guys, a simple Google search will give you the answer of whether or not Nancy Pelosi even has the power to do this, okay? When can Congress refuse to seat a duly elected candidate? Never. In 1969, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Speaker of the House could not exclude a duly elected candidate from the U.S. House of Representatives in Power versus McCormick, 395 U.S. 486. The Supreme Court ruled that the House's constitutional authority to judge the qualifications of its own members was post facto and could only be exercised via expulsion after a 2/3 affirmative vote. In other words, the House and Senate have no discretion when deciding whether to seat a candidate who was duly elected under law, but may take steps to expel that member after they have been sworn in. The court decided the constitutional rights of the voters in the states takes precedence over the rights of Congress until the candidate is sworn in as a member. Although this case involved the House of Representatives, there is no indication that the court would view a candidate duly elected to the Senate any differently. All right, guys, that sounds clear to me, right? That even Nancy Pelosi does not recognize the limits of her power. And that is what's wrong with our politicians. They think that they are all powerful when they're not. And again, guys, the hypocrisy on this is absolutely mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Because when Josh Hawley, who they is framed as an insurrectionist, as a traitor to the people, went out and said, you know what? I'm going to contest the election, right? In Congress, which is 100% constitutional, allowed in the Constitution, right? He even cited all the times that the Democrats did it as historical precedents for why I can do this. Again, they framed him as an insurrectionist. They said this man is trying to overturn the rule of the people. Okay? So by that same logic, is Nancy Pelosi now an insurrectionist? Is she now trying to overturn the rule of the people? Because by that same logic, Nancy Pelosi and any Democrat who goes along with this is an insurrectionist. Because just like they told us for 2 or 3 months straight, just because you don't like the results of the election, once it's been certified, it's done. This is the word of the Democrats. This is the word of the media. And speaking of the media, where is the media on this? Don Lemon, where you at? Joy Reid, where you at? Jake Tapper, where you at? Chris Cuomo, where you at? Rachel Maddow, where you at? Where are you guys at when Nancy Pelosi, who's a Democrat, the Speaker of the damn House, is trying to overthrow an election, right? We're damn near 2 or 3 months into her term, and Nancy Pelosi is sitting here talking about considering removing her. But you sit here and you lecture us, you lecture the American people, you sat on your high horse and try to act like you was above everything, that the Democrats are so principled, that the Republicans are so bad, that they don't care about the will of the people. But when the Democrats turn around and do the same exact thing, crickets, nothing, nada, zip. This is why politics is a joke. This is why the media is a joke. And this is why this country is going nowhere fast, because we don't have nobody that's principled on shit. The media is not principled. Politicians ain't principled. People don't care about real issues. And this is where we at right now. Media don't hold nobody accountable. It's the media's job to hold these people accountable when they do bullshit like this. Because the Democrats, again, for the last 2 to 3 months, made it seem like this is the worst thing in the world. Like I said, what Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz did was 100% constitutional. Whether you agree with it or not, it's allowed. It's something that happens every election year. But you guys set the precedent that that was bad, that it's the worst thing in the world. So again, according to your argument, not mine, your argument, you need to be all over this. I need to see a 2-hour special on Nancy Pelosi, the insurrectionist, on CNN. That's what I need to see. Because you guys said that this was the worst thing in the world. And in my opinion, not only is this peak hypocrisy, right? This is also much, much worse because Miss Rita Hart didn't even go through the courts, right? She didn't even go through the state right? She didn't allow the state to determine what was just. She went straight to dictator Pelosi, who went and implied that she had the sole authority to overturn the will of the people, something that she does not have, that's been decided by the Supreme Court. And the media's not calling her out on this. And now they're sitting here considering having a vote in Congress to remove somebody that was duly elected in a certified election solely because we don't like you results of the election. We don't like it. How does that not go against that narrative that you guys have pushed for the last 2 to 3 months, that you drilled into everybody's head, that you spent the last 2 to 3 months lecturing half of America on? This is a joke. This is a joke. If you think what they did was wrong, if you think what really happened was wrong then it's wrong now. That's how things work. If it was wrong, it's wrong. My opinion, like I said, I don't think what Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz did was wrong, because this is something that they've done all the time. The only reason people cared is because of how highly contested this election was. That's the only reason people cared. It happens every year. They did nothing that hasn't been done before in the past. But you guys said it was wrong. You said that it wasn't the right thing to do. So I expect you to apply that same standards when the Democrats do the exact same thing. Politicians do what's best for them in the moment. They don't care about what they said in the past. They don't give a damn about that. All they give a damn about is themselves, right? All they give a damn about is power. And the Democrats especially, all they care about is power. That's all they care about. The Democrats claim that they have ideas. A lot of their ideas are bad, but most of the ideas, guys, that they actually try to execute has to do with them maintaining power. It doesn't have anything to do with them doing anything for the American people. It's all about them maintaining power. That's what it's about, 100%. They pretend like they're doing things for the people when they're really not. What they're really trying to do is they're just trying to stay in office. They're trying to keep their jobs. They go out there, talk big game, this, that, and the other. But behind the scenes, when you pay attention to action, they don't move on nothing unless it allows them to stay in power. And this is why we need term limits. This is why we need term limits. These politicians are over their heads, okay? And they don't care about principles. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the will of the American people. All they care about is themselves. And Nancy Pelosi has shown that all the rhetoric that they went about trying to impeach President Trump, trying to, smear Josh Hawley, smear all these other people, it meant nothing. It was solely so they could get what they wanted. And it had nothing to do with any of the principles, any of the virtue signaling, none of this stuff they was talking about. It meant nothing. It was all a show. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.